We are live on YouTube. And we're live on Zoom.
Welcome to everybody who's joining us this morning. We'll begin promptly at 9:30. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and send it to all panelists and attendees. Good morning and welcome to everybody who's joining us. We'll start promptly at 9:30, but please go ahead in the meantime and introduce yourself in the chat. Make sure to send it to all panelists and attendees. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Welcome to everybody who's attending our K-12 Online Teaching Academy. I'm Stephanie Eichley Chang, and I will be co-hosting along with Brian Chung Dooley, coming to you from San Jose State College of Education. I am super excited. Today we have with us Shannon Tabaldo, and she will be presenting from Ideal Institute from LMU about engagement tools and strategies. So we're going to have a really great session. Let's go ahead and go over our announcements before I turn it over. First of all, you probably know because you've been here before, lots of you, but a recording of this event will be available afterwards, and you can also access it on our registration website. Captions are in the recording, so you can go ahead and grab that link that Brian will put in the chat to go with the captions. Your video and audio automatically turned off, so please use the chat or the Q&A to communicate with us and ask questions. And I know Shannon will take questions along the way and a bit at the end. And then if you would like to and you're interested, go ahead and join our Facebook group or our LinkedIn group so that this is a place for you to kind of share ideas and network with colleagues. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Shannon now. Shannon, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm really looking forward to sharing some engagement tools for the K-12 classroom, and not only for distance learning, but for when we do transition back into our classrooms again. These tools should transition really nicely. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a professor and the founding director of the Ideal Institute at Loyola Marymount University. here in Los Angeles, California. And IDEAL Institute stands for Innovation in Digital Education and Leadership. So we focus on the integration of digital tools, as well as blended learning strategies and teacher and administrative leadership. So that's my workspace. I come out of K-12 teaching. I taught in a K-8 school and transitioned into higher education. So that's it for me. You can Google anything else you want to know. We'll just get started here. So the first thing that we think about when we want to get our students engaged is to make sure that our students have access to the learning and the content. And so in order to do that, you need to know your students and your families. So having some kind of a pre-assessment, or hopefully, you know, if you get to see your kids live in the beginning of September or August, whenever you start school, understanding what they have access to, and where they're at is very helpful. I know in March, we knew our students because we had them all year, but if we start the year in this new modality, it's going to take us a hot minute to figure out what those needs of our students and families are. Second, you're going to need to make sure that your content is organized and streamlined so that to not overwhelm any of your students if there's any type of online learning that's happening. And if we are going to, and this presentation is kind of coming back that we're going to be in some type of an online distribution of content and learning in the fall and next year. So you want to make sure that when your students are not with you face-to-face, that you are providing both online and offline opportunities for learning. And finally, communicate, reach out for help. The Facebook group, the LinkedIn group, your personal learning network, whether that's on Twitter or wherever it is, or that could be just your school, you know, co-teacher. Make sure that you've got a network that you can reach out for help to communicate for yourself if you're struggling with something, but also to make sure that if you see a student that's not logging in or not able to meet the learning needs, there could be something else going on with them, just as in face-to-face classes. Your students may need additional support. So make sure that you have the ability to reach out and communicate with the family as well. So when we talk about online engagement, this is coming from a website that is a blog for 7 tips for increasing student engagement in online courses. And these are the 7 kind of strategies that we make sure we want to have. We want to make sure they all have access to the content, that we're communicating in multiple ways every day, whether that's in person or through video, making the learning social and engaging so that they can reach out with each other, providing active learning opportunities. A lot of kids sit passively at these computers. I know I'm guilty of that. And so getting up and having them to go do something is really key. Giving them the sense of ownership and control while they're in this online environment. And that helps with structuring the workload that you're giving them. And then also providing timely and useful feedback, not assigning something that's just busy work, because then you need to then engage with it somehow. And if it's just busy work, it's neither helpful for either of you. So making sure that what you're assigning is intentional and has purpose, and that you're providing feedback for them. And then finally, encouraging self-assessment and reflection. So hopefully I will hit, and the stuff I'm going to show you today will hit most of these 7, if not all of these 7 rules for or strategies for online engagement. So if you've ever seen Leslie Fisher present, and if you don't know who she is, you should Google her, Leslie Fisher. She basically throws a lot at you at one time if she's live and in person. And so that's what I'm planning on doing today, is throwing a lot at you. I'll hopefully be able to interact a little bit here. But for the most part, I'm going to try to give you as much as I possibly can, and then stay with you afterwards if you have questions or things like that. So Pear Deck is a great way to organize your thoughts as a teacher and then to distribute that information. Pear Deck can be delivered live or in a self-paced student mode. So if you've used Pear Deck before, you know that it integrates really well with Google and Microsoft, and it will it allows you to put a presentation in and distribute it. And we're going to go try a Pear Deck here. And I know there's a lot of you on this session, but we're gonna try it. So I'm gonna go ahead and click this Pear Deck here, and we're gonna see if it works. And because we're live, you know, who knows what's gonna happen. You never know if it's gonna work or not. Interesting. It may not work. I'm gonna refresh and just see if I can get it one more time. And if it doesn't work, we move on. That's how we roll when we're live on these sessions. And if there's any questions now, there's probably not because I haven't gone over anything, but we can always, I can answer questions while I'm trying to queue this up. Is Pear Deck part of Google? It's not. It's a Google add-on, and you can see it here. If here it says it's working. It's a Google add-on that is free, and there is a paid version. Is it like Google Classroom? No, but it can be put into Google Classroom. So it basically, I have a Google slide deck here. I've added some Pear Deck features. These are text, choice, numbers, websites. And then you also have these starred. These are premium versions. You're gonna hopefully get to test those out because I made this Pear Deck when I had the free version of premium. But the cool thing is you can add audio to a slide. And this is what I'd really like to see a lot of teachers do moving forward is if we end up in this hybrid modality where you need to deliver, don't just send a video or a Pear Deck or a slide deck digitally. Add your audio and narrate it so that when the students go through the self-paced version, they're getting to hear your voice in the deck. I didn't model that one this time, but it's super simple. You just click record audio and it'll attach a little audio link to this file. I'll talk about the differences between Pear Deck and Nearpod a little later. And it works with any learning management system. So basically we hit start lesson. And if you have another device or another window that you're able to access this Pear Deck, you can do that. You can see when I click it, I've got both options here. In this case, I'm going to do instructor paste because you're live with me now, but I could do that student paste one. And it's going to give you some instructions here on the screen. It's going to tell you to go to joinpd.com if you can. And it's going to give you a code that'll be all alpha. And let's see. It's taking a minute. Come on, let's work, please. All right. Looks like it's taking a little longer than I would like. So in the interest of time, oh, you guys are logging in. Awesome. Okay, you can see that BEOKR, broke elephants, officiate keen raisins. I don't know what that means. It's gibberish. But it looks like there's some people joining. Fantastic. Oh, good. Okay, great. Great. Awesome. Thank you for putting that in the chat there. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I think because I've got a. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. You can keep joining. I'm going to. Okay. So, oops, I went too far. So on your screen, those of you who are joining, this is just a typical slide presentation. It's asking, oh, it's going a little crazy. Woo, sorry. Is your screen flashing like that? Whoa. All right, I don't know what to do here. Let's just, wow, I've never seen that happen before. Okay, it's flashing all over. Yeah, I'm gonna stop because I don't know what's going on. Looks like it says, oh no, I got a little notification that says, oh no, we're having technical difficulties. All right, that's because we are live on YouTube. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna close out Pear Deck and we will try again. We'll try again a little later if we have. So anyways, Pear Deck allows you to push out. There's text responses from students. I wish you could have tried that. Numerical responses, slider responses, polling responses. I can push you out to a website to have you engage. And we can try that if we have time at the end. I will try to pull up that presentation and try again. But it is a wonderful way to organize. And the difference between Pear Deck and Nearpod, in my opinion, is the content base. So there are preloaded accessible content for you, and Pear Deck has less than Nearpod. That and cost-wise, obviously. Another way to organize your classrooms is to create a video. So if your students are remote that day, you might want to create a video. This is a quick video that is a morning meeting video. It takes about 7 minutes for me to show you. So I'm going to fast forward in a couple different places, but I wanted you to kind of get an idea of what it might look like. She used a virtual background and a sound effects app, and you should have the audio coming through.
Good morning, first graders. Welcome back and happy Tuesday. Today is March 31st, and we're going to get started on our learning today. So let's check out our calendar for beginning our morning meeting. So as you'll see right here, March 31st is represented. And let's check out how many days we've been in first grade. So in first grade, we've spent a total of 143 days learning together. Now that doesn't necessarily mean we've been in class 143 days, because we have been doing some distance learning for a few weeks, but we've been learning together for 143. So how does this translate when we think about hundreds, tens, and ones? As you can see, it is 100, 4 tens, and 3 ones. So if I were to draw this number in base 10 blocks, this is how I would draw about her later this week. Let's check out our question of yesterday. You guys had to vote on Seesaw as to what was the best type of cookie. As you can see, we had 7 people vote for chocolate chip, 2 for sugar, 3 for peanut butter, and 5 for snickerdoodle. If we add that up, we can look at the 4 add-ins here, and I'm going to group the 7 and the 2 together and group the 3 and the 5 together to make a 9 and an 8. So hopefully tomorrow we'll have a higher number and more people will participate.
Not everybody voted.
So, or meh, I don't really mind the rain so much, or yes, but just a little bit, or absolutely I love the rain. So go to our Seesaw and vote on today's question of the day. Time for super shout outs. Yesterday's learning asked us to write our opinion. The question was, do you think tacos or sandwiches are better? And getting active. Yesterday's Get Creative activity was part of our religion project. You guys had to create your own version of Noah's Ark or a poster.
You can see how she's interacting with the students. She's calling them out. She's talking about, she used math in her session when she was talking about her calendaring and when she was talking about different activities. She's telling them what's coming up for the week, or today actually. In the older grades, you can actually give them the whole week at a time. And then she says she misses you and she's live on Zoom. The best part was how she was able to have her picture in picture. I noticed there was a comment on that. That's a Zoom feature. And then making her cursor huge was an accessibility feature within her computer. So that allowed the student to follow the screen. And having these posted allows the student to go through and watch this however many times they need to when they're distance or remote. And so one of the questions is what slides, this is just Google Slides was her presentation. And I will give you the template in our resources link at the end of this session. You'll have access to these templates that she's using. So the last way I'm going to show you, or another one, is an app. If you're an iPad school, there's an app called Doceri. It's free and it will allow you to hand draw your lessons. There's no video. But you can present using Doceri in a pre-recorded way. And it allows you to put images, PDFs, audio screencasts. You can download them. You can put them right into your Google Classroom via the app on the iPad. And then if you're live, you can also mirror via AirPlay. And so Doceri is a great iPad version if you are an iPad school or have access to iPads. And students and teachers can access this app. It is free. Oh, sorry, one more organized. The last organized would be screencasting. So making sure that you're using some kind of screencasting tool, whether that's Zoom or whether that's Screencastify or Loom, all of those are free. And Screencastify and Loom have extensions that you can load right into your browser if you're using Chrome, and then give you the shareable links. The difference between, in my opinion, Screencastify and Loom is where it is hosted. Screencastify allows you to host the video in your own Google Drive. Loom hosts on their own server. So it just depends on where do you want the content to be hosted. In the case of privacy for students, I would push for Screencastify. I recommend Screencastify because it's hosted in their own Google Drives, which would then be secured. And then Loom, I don't know how that works with student privacy issues. So I just know that all the videos are hosted on the Loom site, but links are great and they all work great. And there are free versions and education versions for both of these. And I know if you sign up with your EDU accounts, you should be able to get the education versions on those. The one thing I really would encourage is student recordings. So if students could record themselves or present themselves, these are ways to do that. But there are also ways for you to get organized as the educator. So they are also part of the Create if we give them to students. So I've changed my little icon up there in the top left corner because we're going to move into Create now. And so when we think about creating and from a student's perspective, Book Creator is a fantastic tool that I've known about for many, many years. And gosh, just wish I would have used it more. It's a wonderful way for students to, first of all, engage with content or material that you create. So you could essentially create a book and push it out to your students and they can work through that material. But they can also create books and demonstrate their mastery of whatever it is that they have learned. And so they can also collaborate with the paid version. Students can collaborate with each other on books. And I want to make sure I'm really clear that that's with the paid version. And I want to show you what that looks like. So this is during COVID, I did make a collaborative book here. And if you don't have a Book Creator account, it's free to sign up. And you get libraries and your own personal library, and then this library that you can push out to students or collaborate. So in this one, we made a book here, and you can see that I gave everybody a page. I'm going to go to pages. I just made a bunch of blank pages, and on the second page, I said, what did I want them to do? I wanted them to everybody take a page, customize it, and I gave them some instructions. And you can kind of see what they did here. I started at the first one and people put all kinds of fun stuff. They put memes in there. They started playing around with backgrounds and images and shapes and all kinds of fun things. And I think that, again, if you haven't used Book Creator before, it's worth going in and checking out as a way to push content out to your students, but also to collaborate. And the way these can actually be published too, by the way. So you can actually take a book and I can hit the share button and I can publish it online. So if my students work on books, I can take it as a collaboration and then publish it as a shared book that my students made. I can also download it as an ebook. And then there's this collaboration piece where I can give out codes and people can collaborate and we can print it. But when you go to make a new book, let me go back here. I can go to new book and I have 6 different options. They all have different capabilities. The really fun capabilities like stickers and all kinds of fun animations and things are all in these comic ones versus the standard ones. So you may want to do a standard one to get everybody started. You can, again, push it out or share it as a collaborative tool. or they can just, you can share yours and they can just read through it. Audio can go in here, video can go in here. It's super amazing. I've seen tons of people do even textbooks. And then if you go to resources, you can see there's resources by grade, by subject, and then books that some of the ambassadors have already used. And so if you click in here, you can start to see resources for your grade level. And again, I used the free version, but there was a paid version, a free paid upgrade during the COVID pandemic that I used to create some collaborative stuff. But I really like Book Creator. Another opportunity for creation is Jamboard. And let me see if I can stretch my screen a little bit more. Oh, no, looks like it just went off. So Jamboard is a Google product. It was acquired by Google more recently, and I think it's kind of a secret hidden collaboration tool. If you've not used it, I think it's so fun. Jamboard is at jamboard.google.com. It is part of your Google Suite if you're a Google Suite school. And what it allows you to do is create jams. They're not called boards, they're called jams. And they live in your Google Drive, just like everything else that's Google. And again, I can have these blank. Usually it's 20 slides. This morning I noticed that there was 22 slides on here, and I don't know how that happened, but usually the limit is 20. And so you can have all these slides and they're blank, and I can push things out to them, but it's a collaborative tool. I can have everybody on this Jamboard, and I can have everyone writing on one, or I can create a template jam and push it out to all my students and have them interact with it. And so again, I just hit share just like I would with any other Google presentation. Anyone with the link, copy the link. I can drop it in the chat to everyone here. And now you guys can access this jam and you can just start adding to it. I can add, this was like a presentation where I said, label the parts of this cell. And I could push this out to you through Google Classroom and you could start interacting with it. On the next slide, I can say add your Bitmoji, and you can put pictures, you can write, you can draw. If you're on an iPad, it's 100 times better working with it on an iPad than it is on a Chromebook or in the Chrome browser. But Jamboard is one of my favorite tools. Again, only 20, so you have to have a small group to do it, or you push it out with its preloaded content. And it is just amazing. Go ahead and feel free to draw on there. Yeah, so there's already so many of you guys on here. So it's probably getting a little overloaded, but look, there's somebody drawing right there. Fantastic. It looks like somebody's drawing a little happy face. Good job. So you can see how easy it is to collaborate in Jamboard and really work in it. And then I can see what's going on all of these slides. This would be a great example here of a slide where I've preloaded some content in and I want the student to fill out the information or show their work. So there you go. That's Jamboard. And I hope that you use it if for nothing else, just as an alternative to Google Slides or something different. You can, there's no audio. It's very simple, but it's super fun. So have fun with Jamboard. These guys called it a workshop that I went to on Jamboard, called it Interactive Video Meets Collaborative Whiteboard. And it's something that's been around for a long time, actually. And then Google acquired it and made it part of their suite. And they kind of just stripped it down, put it simple's better. And it's just a great collaborative tool for brainstorming. No, you cannot insert, to my knowledge, you cannot insert videos in. It's just pictures, images. And I can Google search for images, but not videos. And, drawing, And on an iPad, there's so much more. It has like intuitive drawing, where if I draw a circle, it'll just automatically snap it to a circle. So I see some questions coming in on Jamboard. Can you do breakout rooms in Jamboard? If you assigned a Jamboard to each breakout room, different Jamboards, yes. Do students have access to all the slides? Yes. If you share it with them, it's same shares like Google. So you can share it view only, or you can share it to where they all have access, like you all have access right now. And yes, they can delete others' work. So that is, that's there for you. So it is what it is, good or bad. Okay, so another creation tool is called WhiteboardFi. And this is one that I just recently learned about, where if you're teaching math, you can use, or anything, but I found that math teachers are the ones that really love WhiteboardFi. This one does have a limit of 50 people because of the way that this tool is an online tool and how it's structured. But what it allows you to do is open up a virtual whiteboard and have instant access and no privacy, no information. I mean, no privacy, totally private. No information is collected. And it's live, so you can see what the students are doing on their whiteboards, and then it can be saved. So as a PDF or an image file, and it can be done on any device. It's really device agnostic. And so I've opened up WhiteboardFi, and you can see that there's no real login information. It's either create a new one or join. So it's whiteboard.fi. And if I create a new one, I just name it. If I know how to spell my name, there we go. And I can have a waiting room. I can enable image uploads. I can force simple mode for students or slow mode for students. And then I can create a new class, and simply the students, you guys, can go to whiteboard.fi and put in this code. And if you do that, you'll be able to draw on the whiteboard, and I'll be able to see what you do. So this one does have a limit of 50 people. It is really important that we don't go over the 50, or I think it just kicks it out. But you can see that I've got some tools here. So I think if I do 5x minus 3 equals, I'm making this up, 2x plus 8. That's not good. 8, and we solve for 8. We solve for x. You can, and I could type this. I could do a lot of things. Then I should be able to see if anybody's joined, and oh, you guys are joining and you're writing. There you go. So I can see this, and at the end, fantastic. You guys are great. I love it when you guys engage with me. It just makes me feel like I'm not alone out here talking into the void. But watch my screen as you guys join, how the text, I can begin to see it. And once I close the room, the text is captured, and I can then save these images as a PDF. And then I have evidence of whether you enjoyed the work that we did, whether you understood the work that we did, and whether you got it. There is a mathematical capturing here. And again, I think this works much, much better on an iPad. So if you are an iPad school, to me, that would be the better place for this to live. Once this is closed, everything's deleted. There's no content saved. It all goes away, with the exception of if I want to capture it as a PDF. Do students get a copy of their work? That's a great question. I think the students, you can, from student mode, if I recall correctly, you can actually save it. I haven't seen the student screen since last night, but I think there was a way that you could save the image or a PDF as well, so that you would have a copy of it, probably to upload to Google Classroom or Seesaw or whatever you're using. So then when I'm done, I can go ahead and I save all whiteboards as a PDF, and I can just put a note, sjsu. I can include my teacher whiteboard if I want to. And let's see. It keeps clicking me out of it. Anyways, save all whiteboards, save. And then it'll make a PDF. You don't need a stylus to write, but I find it's better. There is a text tool in there. And then I can close the room. And when I close the room, that's the end. It should have kicked you guys all out and all whiteboards have been erased and we're done. And so anybody can really do that. There's some tutorial videos down here, but it's pretty basic. Nothing's really saved on there. And it's a great tool. I find that, like I said, and they've just done this new update as of May 26th, which is very, very recent. As far for some new interactions and some new tools. And these math symbols is really cool. And that's in the text editor. All right. So that's WhiteboardFi. And again, I just learned about that one, a few weeks ago. I'd never heard of it before. What does the saved PDF look like? That's a good question. I'll see if it's actually saved and I'll pull it up at the end. Another create is Quizlet, finding flashcards and study materials. It's really a flashcard creator. Most of you have probably heard about Quizlet. If you haven't, it's just a great online flashcard. This is an actual screenshot that I took just in case I didn't have access to mine. But when I log in, I've got some access to the ones that I've created, but I also can search and find what other people have created and vet it and edit theirs. And then this is kind of what my set looks like. So when I click on the Constitution, I've got these questions with 18 questions and images. And then this is actually what the flashcard looks like. So this is the definition: Articles of Confederation. The articles denied Congress the power to tax and enforce laws, and that term would be the weakness of the Articles of Confederation. I only use the free version of Quizlet. You can see there's an upgrade to the teacher version, but I've never found any need for that. What the upgrade gives you is access to more data. But the way I use it is really more to do practice. And then they have this really great website that says teaching remotely. I pulled that up recently, and there's just a lot of great resources out here if you are going to end up teaching remotely. I would encourage you to check that out. Lots of great videos and things like that on Quizlet. So Quizlet is definitely a flashcard tool. That's really what that Quizlet does best, versus Quizzes, which is a quizzing application. So it definitely plays like Kahoot, but different. Kahoot, if you've ever played Kahoot and you like Kahoot, you might want to try Quizzes as well. I think it just kind of takes it to another level. And again, there's this live game that we can do if we're all sitting in a classroom together, but there's also homework mode. And the data that comes out of quizzes is just phenomenal. And if you've never heard of EDUC protocols, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, but there's an EDUC protocol called the Fast and the Curious, which uses quizzes very rapidly, consecutively, over and over again over the course of 3 or 4 days. And then at the end, the students take their quote unquote test. And they've been able to practice this over and over again. And usually the scores are at 98% or higher. But you can kind of see here, this is what the data looks like as it comes out of it. One of the things I like to show people is this is my quizzes dashboard. And you can see that there's the recommended for me based on what I've been searching. But if I go to my own quizzes, here's what this is kind of my section, coins and things that I've played around with. And in the coins one, I have live play if we're all together, or assign as homework. And this goes right into my Google Classroom. And I can set everything in and I can put it right into my Google Classroom if I have Google Classroom. So I really, really like this for just more, not so much as any kind of summative assessment. It's more a formative assessment. It's very game-based. It has memes in it. It's super fun. This looks really gigantic. Okay, there we go. All right, I was wondering why that was so big. And the reporting and the data that comes out of the free version, again, free version, love it. I don't have any reason to go to the paid version at this point. Ooh, somebody talked about Fast and the Curious. Great. Good. I won't be talking about it today, but if you're familiar with protocols, that's a really fun one. We're moving into critical thinking now. So we were doing creation. This creation quizzes could be creation because, so what I like to have students do is they create the quiz that we give the students. So that's super fun. So getting more into critical thinking is EdPuzzle. EdPuzzle is uploading a video into EdPuzzle, and you can actually let students engage with that video. So one of the questions, and even as a graduate school professor, I make videos and I spend, hours making videos and editing them. And then I look at the analytics and like 2 people out of 20 actually watch the video. And I'm like, wow, that kind of sucks. But what if I put it in an EdPuzzle and during the video, I'm allowed to have them stop and engage with the video for content. And then I get the data back and that's part of my formative assessment. I love that feature and that's what EdPuzzle does. And so this is just a screenshot. I thought it was funny actually from Caitlin Tucker. If you don't know or don't follow her, you should absolutely be following Caitlin Tucker. But this was one from one of her blog posts on EdPuzzle. And so the video that's uploaded is a YouTube video. In this case, it could be YouTube, a TED Talk, a Vimeo, your own recording. It can come out of Khan Academy, Nat Geo. There's tons of places where you are pre-curated content, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can cut the video and take different pieces of it. So if you don't want the whole thing, and then you can pause it at different places and ask questions, and the students then are required to stop and engage with the question that you gave them. So in this case, I thought it was funny that in 1935, beer cans were introduced and Alcoholics Anonymous was founded in Ohio. And the question was, what is ironic about this slide? So the students, that would be an open text question. The students would have to formulate some thought, and if they were studying irony, perhaps, that would be really, really fun. A way for them to engage with the content, for you to know that they actually watched it, because you can prohibit them from moving on until they've engaged with the material. You can also redirect them. So if they get something wrong, it'll prompt them and it'll put a link and say, go watch this video for more information and then come back. There's all kinds of really cool stuff you can do. So it's question, multiple choice, and then just your text are the options there with EdPuzzle. So really like EdPuzzle. So we are now going to talk about EDU protocols, and this critical thinking EDU protocol, I'm beginning to transition into when I want students to engage with my material, but I don't want it to be boring. And so I think about reading logs and book journals and book reports and things like that. And I automatically gravitate towards a Bokakucha. And a Bokakucha is kind of a take on a Pekakucha, which is a presentation of like 20 slides in 3 minutes or something like that, where you just have to kind of get a lot of material across very fast, and you use very simplistic techniques. So a student in a Bokakucha would be reading a book, and they would engage with the material based on, in the beginning, it's usually a template or some kind of a guided template, but it could, once they're used to the format, that you could have them do all different kinds of a Bokakuchas. But there is a template on the website, and it allows them to just really kind of synchronize or be succinct with their thoughts and what they're learning. So in this case, this is an example of the students in this case are learning the hero's journey. And right now they're on the Supreme Ordeal, which is down here, kind of, midpoint of the hero's journey. So this is the students presenting on Screencastify their hero's journey. I'm not playing it, I'm just screen grabbing. But basically they talk about what the book is. They give a little synopsis. They're on page 173. and they talk about the character and the shadow, and they've given some text, and they've given some visual content, and then she's narrating over this. The student is narrating over this. In step 3, they're talking about setting. Again, she's narrating over this, but she's put a visual content and some text. Again, the plot, visual content, and some text, and she's narrating over this. She ends with a quote, and then she said now, and then she moves on to the next stage, which is the return in week 8. And so you can see where the students have to be succinct in their thoughts. They have to have really actually read the content, find pictures that match up with what they're going to be talking about, and very, very little text on their slides. We find that in presentations, there's often way too much text on slides, and so simpler is better. And so I get really excited when students can, take any book. Any book should be on the hero's journey. You should be able to take the hero's journey and go through it as long as they've read it, and you've mapped out in the template everything that you want them to put in, and they just add the image and the text, and then they get an opportunity to explain what they're thinking. And so that is an EDU protocol. An EDU protocol is an opportunity for us to create a learning protocol where the focus can be on the learning and not the tools or the technology. And so we create these opportunities for protocols, and I'm sure someone's done a session on this already. But John and Marlena are really good friends of mine. They've written these 2 books called the EDU Protocols Field Guide, and they basically are templates, Google Slides usually, that allow you to create learning opportunities, low stakes in the beginning, so that students can focus on the rigor, the academic rigor. Fantastic, it was yesterday. The academic rigor, and not the actual learning of the software or the tool itself. And so we typically do some fun stuff early on, and then we move to using the same framework, the same Book-Okucha template can be used on any book, no matter what, in any classroom, no matter what. And so the cognitive load is on the content and not the learning the new tool. One of the hardest things for students to do is to figure out whether I've got to write a 5-paragraph essay for my English teacher, but I have to write a 7-paragraph essay, for someone else. And so that's EDU Protocols is a way for us to kind of streamline those contents. I'm going to pause for a minute and take some questions, because it sounds like there's probably some questions that have come in.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
So I wanted to just, some of these are kind of going back a little bit, but I think this is a good question, because I think a lot of people want to know, and I may know the answer, but I'll let you answer. For primary, is there a way to make one code for all events, or simplify so not so many codes are used?
For which tool?
I think it's just going back, when you have to do like codes for Pear Deck and such, they're just random, right? It's not like you can set codes. Okay, that's what I
Correct.
thought.
They're randomly generated so that they don't stay open for security reasons.
Yes. What are your thoughts on using a slide deck as the container for lesson content? All the interactive apps can be in turn embedded in the slide deck and be launched by students from the slide deck. I think that's what this whole thing is about. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of that. So that's considered a hyperdoc, and I didn't really touch too much on it, but you can use Google Docs or Google Slides. But yes, hyperdocs is a great way to do that, and I'm a big fan of that. And you saw that in kind of that introduction video, and I have links to that on our resource guide that I'll show you in a few minutes.
Great. Another question here. How do these quiz software programs encourage engagement? I've had a lot of students who disconnect from Kahoot because they feel like they're losing the quiz, not fast enough, not the right answer. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts on that, that's actually a really good question, is I definitely changed the settings a little bit. And so I don't have a leaderboard because I don't want them to know what anybody else is doing. So I typically don't show a leaderboard. And I don't necessarily think they need a countdown timer. I try to make it so that they're working for themselves. And that comes back to student agency and student grit. And so that's sort of, you know, not necessarily a tool, but more of a strategy of making sure that they have the opportunity to take this as many times as they need to, that they're learning along the way, and they're not angry or frustrated because they see a leaderboard where somebody else did this faster or better than them. So I typically recommend turning that off. And I can't speak for Kahoot because it's not really my area of expertise, but I know in here there's these fun redemption questions. So if they get something wrong, they have an opportunity to come back and answer them again for quote unquote points. Again, these are not grade book type points. This is an opportunity for us to learn and to make sure that we are engaging them enough to help them learn. So hopefully that's helpful.
Great, thank you. And then I think there's a few questions here just about age appropriateness for Book-a-Kucha.
Book-a-Kucha, I've seen whenever you start doing Book-a-Kucha or book reports or that kind of stuff, they can easily do a Book-a-Kucha. So I've seen this done as low as 1st and 2nd grade. Again, it's all in the template setup. And if we just go to eduprotocols.com, I can show you the templates that are available for free. And really all EduProtocols are like 1st, 2nd grade up. So Kinder is a little bit harder, and that's just more of the dexterity pieces to it. But it's here under free templates. And we can go down to Book-a-Kucha. And it's a little tricky. It's actually the word Book-a-Kucha right here will open up the template that you have access to, and it will it'll let you go. And you can just hit use this template, and it's all in the plus. And when you hit the plus in Google Slides, everything is there. I think it's actually, yeah. So when you hit the plus, you have all of the templates that you can just delete or use the ones you want and frame it up the way you want to do it. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and move on. I know you'll be coming to our debrief session too. So some people who may have questions can also attend there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for stopping me. I forget to stop. And Flipgrid is another favorite. And I know we're down to, gosh, probably 10 minutes. So Flipgrid, I could do a whole session on any one of these things. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of, I love it for critical thinking and I love it for communication. I'm connecting these back to the 4 C's. And I go to this quote of tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I feel like Benjamin Franklin, or was it Confucius? I'm not really sure because I see, it doesn't really matter. But the reality is that when I can explain it, chances are I probably know it. And Flipgrid gives us the opportunity to see and hear student voice, an authentic student voice with video and audio. Here's another great student voice. It's an iPad app. This is great for primary. And you should.
My name is Pentagon. I have 5 vertices, 5 sides, 5 angles. You can see me as a home plate. It could be you could see me as a section on a soccer ball.
Thought that was really great. ChatterPix is a fun little app on the iPad for kids in primary, also critical thinking. This is a student voice example in junior high. They made a rap.
This is my ordering numbers poem. When ordering numbers from least to greatest, it's pretty easy, so here's the basis. Turn them into decimals or whatever you like. Put those in order, but order them right.
So you get the gist of that.
Make sure they're in least to greatest. And
then we move into performance tasks for critical thinking. So again, projects. So in this elementary example, you can see that the student recreated a famous painting. In this example, this is obviously early elementary. They had letter cards and they had to find something in their house that corresponded with the letter. And then over here, this was like finding things in your house that represent the color wheel. And again, performance tasks are really fun to help make sure that students understand, and then they can upload that content to you. For performance tasks, more of elementary is creating a little drawing using Google Drawings, creating a little book report. Where they're writing and making a game. It's a great way to make sure that they are understanding what's going on. They can do some kind of modified diorama. Performance tasks in junior high might be the same thing, creating the artwork. Same. Here's the painted pony, speckled pony, I think. I love this one with the Simpson family recreating this. Just makes me laugh every time. Oftentimes in junior high, we say writing, and writing is a huge part of the middle school and older experiences. However, what if they could not only demonstrate their writing, but also do it in this form of like a slide? So if I want to know what the somebody was, who's the main character, what does she want, what's the conflict? Basically, you're going to delete the text and the student's going to write out all the information. They can actually take some of that writing experience and start it out here before it becomes the narrative. They can also be putting videos as an example to plot. This is also in a Google slide template, and then creating the story arc in a Google Doc or in a video or in any kind of presentation type scenario. Flipgrid allows screen recording now. So you can just simply, they can record their screen and share just as they could when they were doing Screencastify or a Loom or something like that, but you can do it right inside Flipgrid. You can also find these fun templates, the Creative EdTech, .weebly.com is a friend of mine. Oh, I'm sorry. There's no the. I always say the and there's not. It's creativeedtech.weebly.com. And these are some templates where this is a Harry Potter template. And so again, there's an interactive video here. There's kind of cool titles and there's multiple pages. And he's created these templates for your students to fill out. If you're studying a person, there's cool stuff on Facebook templates. These are all Google slide templates, a Time Magazine template, National Geographic template, an Instagram template. These are all amazing templates that will help your students think critically about the content that they learned and put it together in some kind of a performance task or some kind of fun, more engaging than a typical quote unquote report, 5-paragraph essay type report. Not that those aren't important. This is just a different alternative for that. Another example is for them to make comic strips. They can use all different kinds of iPad apps or Google apps for that. And finally, I'm going to come in right on time. Finally, encouraging your students to self-assess and reflect on their own learning is really, really key for you to make sure that you're on point with the engagement. And so creating just a simple survey is really important. And for the little kids, it might just look something like that at the end of the week. For bigger kids, it might be journaling digitally or written journals for them to kind of assess and reflect on their own learning. And then for you to look and see if you're meeting the needs of those students. creativeedtech.weebly.com. I'll share that. Let me go back and I'll share that with you really quickly because I have it in my notes here. I'm going to put that hyperlink in the chat box here, just so you guys have that. I saw that pop up on the screen. All right, so finally, hopefully in this almost an hour, we hit most of these things for online engagement as far as strategies and or tools. And some of the things that we can discuss in the breakout room or the next panel is this was over 20 things that I showed you. Again, it was a lot. But what 3 strategies or tools will you take back and explore for implementation in your classroom before we do this? I had promised you a link, and this bit.ly right here, bit.ly, bit.ly, ideal, all caps, online learning resources, actually has everything I talked about And I'm going to pull that up on the screen in a minute and I'll show you that. But this is how to get a hold of me. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Brian, for putting that in the chat. That should get you everything you need. But if you want to get a hold of me, this is my email address. I'm on Twitter. And then I also have a podcast for teachers. And this podcast focuses on tools that innovate, engage, and inspire. We interview teachers who are innovating, engaging, and inspiring using tools, technology tools in their classroom. And so that's a podcast that we'd love for you to check out and share with your friends. I'm going to open up the, that's my timer to tell me that I'm close to being out of time. I want to show you the resources link. It is very robust and very overwhelming if you're seeing it for the first time. But one of the things I would like to show you is on the side here on the left. Yeah, I know it's a big document. You can go to the, we've set it up. It's the most recent update was on the 29th, which was 2 days ago. So you can see that we're still constantly updating this as a live resource document. People are often like, give us a PDF. Well, you can PDF it, but it's going to be different tomorrow. So right up here in the top left corner is the outline view of the document. And what we tried to do was really organize it for you. And so if you look for the learning board templates, that's hyperdocs and things like that we were talking about earlier. Tips and tricks, examples of learning boards, resources to share with parents, learning management systems. We also put stuff for administrators in here. There's videos, that video example, digital morning meetings was the video example. There's a junior high version and an elementary version with all of the tools that you might need. Here's Catlin Tucker's information. Literally everything I talked about and probably hundreds of more things is here. We added a section just recently. This is all stuff from teachers. And then this tips and tricks and resources for school leaders is really a great place for principals or administrators to learn and find resources. And we continue, like I said, to update this almost every other day or so. So please feel free to share that link with anyone. And if you find something that should be on there, let us know and we will happily add it. I got 1 minute left to answer questions and then I will definitely stay on or move to a different room with you guys.
Yeah, I think that at this point, we can go ahead and probably transition over to the debrief session. Excuse me, I'm not seeing any big major questions coming through. People are asking about the link and Brian is dropping the link in the chat a couple different times. It's there for you. But this resource document, I was just checking out things last night. And as you said, there's so much there and I really appreciate it. It's going to be a great resource for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. Thank you to everybody who has attended. Shannon, this was awesome. We're seeing so many great comments in the chat too of people appreciating all of the different resources. And as you know, the recording will be available for you afterwards and will be sent out, and it's available on our registration website if you want to go back and check out any of the other sessions maybe that you missed. Like yesterday we had an entire session on the EDU protocols, so people may be inspired to go back and watch that. Anyhow, I'm going to thank Shannon for her time, and those of you who want to join us in the debrief session to spend some more time with Shannon, she has been gracious and said she will join us there. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
And we'll see some of you in the debrief session.
Thank you, everyone.